Hey, welcome back. This is Rich Hart. Welcome back to the Rich Hart Show. Today, my guest is Sherry Heyl. Sherry, you're a transformation specialist. Business leadership, developing. You have a company itself called Amplified Concepts. We're going to be talking about your book. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different things themselves. But let's introduce our listeners to who Sherry is.
Well, you did a good job. I'm Sherry Heyl. When I first went out on my own back in 2005, the title I gave myself was Idealist.
Okay.
I think in the past 20 years, I might have been slapped around with reality a little bit.
Changes.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about changes, I guess, right?
Exactly. But, you know, I'm still very idealistic, especially when disruption changes happen. I believe that there's a lot of opportunity in there, and there's a lot of emotions in it as well, a lot of fear, anxiety. And so I try to lean into those emotions, help people work through them, and find the idealism and the changes as well.
Super. You know, Sherry, we've seen a lot of change already in the business, the development worlds themselves, people engaging generations, okay, and things themselves happen to, or seeing those changes themselves. Sometimes they're good.
Yep.
Sometimes they may not be so good. Okay. What are some of the good times, bad times, or some of those changes that you've seen from a leadership perspective, all right, a consulting perspective, or actually a transformation special, all right, from how you see people themselves adapting, all right? AI is a big thing we talk about nowadays. Even back then, COVID really drove us into other areas such as what? Staying home, all right, putting on the least amount of clothes as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, get it out there through Zoom and the different technologies, all right? And so once we got past that, gave us the opportunity to kind of move on a little bit.
Yep.
What were some of the challenges that you saw?
Going back, I'd like to actually take you back a little bit further.
Let's do it.
You know, give my gray
I think
hair
I'm old enough.
I was going to say, I want to give my gray hair some purpose.
Go ahead.
I'll take you back to 2005.
Okay.
No, let's take you back to 2002.
I'll do it. I
want
was
to go
there.
all the way there?
Here we go.
All right. So I was an IT recruiter.
It's a roller coaster ride.
It's a roller
And we're
coaster
going to talk
ride.
about that roller coaster ride
Exactly. I was an IT recruiter, and if you remember, that's when the dot-com bubble burst.
Right.
And that's a big change.
Sure was.
But from there, a lot of innovation happened. A lot of IT people were out of a job. They were networking through the internet connectivity, and we got the RSS feed so that they could follow each other. We got the blogging. We got the social media bubbling up from that time.
Reaching as many people as we possibly can in a shorter period of time.
Exactly. And at that time, so 2005, I figured if the internet was going to be disruptive, then people being able to talk to each other on a mass scale was going to be very disruptive. And that's when I went out on my own. So you wanted to say, what have I seen that's good? What's bad? You know, so that was, disruptive. And a negative is all these people out of a job. But what good came out of it was the ability to communicate on a mass scale. That also turned into some bad things as well, right?
Sure did.
Social media hasn't been all good. One of my personal experiences is I put together a huge conference in 2007 to educate people about social media. About 200 people came. The next year when we did that same conference, I had asked the question, since the last year's conference, how many people started their own business? Because I saw social media as being an entry that people could start their own business.
Sure it is.
Do you know more than half the room raised their hand?
Good.
I teared up.
Sure.
I could not believe, that impact was happening.
Right.
I see the same thing now with AI.
Okay.
People have these tools available to them that they can now go, I always wanted to, but I didn't have the resource to.
Right, exactly.
And now they do.
So AI is a projected path that we see. Individuals themselves, there are some, most recently, don't want AI to happen.
Yep.
AI, I'd say it's still in very, very much infancy stage
Yes.
already. And I think it'll grow. It's got to reach some kind of platforms, kind of status quo, a balance out there. Alrighty, but we're going to see additional technologies themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty, as AI meets VR and things of this nature, is going to create a whole different world and a different way for people to reach out. But you're helping people through transformation.
Yes.
And you're really diving down for folks themselves to making the change. It's great to see a lot more entrepreneurial spirits and a lot more folks themselves getting into the entrepreneurial, especially after certain periods already that gave them an upper hand, gave them an opportunity.
Yes.
All right. And I think that's what social networking itself did just that.
Yes.
Already, and different platforms. Some survived.
Yes.
And some did not make it, you know?
And that's the same. You know, I say I started with being an IT recruiter in '98. I love startups. My joke is, not really a joke, but I staffed most of the companies that don't exist anymore.
Good.
That's the nature of it. So from that disruption to, as you said, the disruption of Web 2.0, and those companies don't exist anymore. And in fact, one of the very first blog posts I wrote when I started writing about AI is don't focus on the tools.
Okay.
Because we know that the tools are going to go away, they're going to be acquired, they're going to change. And that's what everybody does. They jump after what's the shiny new object, what's the tool I want, not what's the change I want.
Yeah. So pitfalls are for individuals themselves now starting and getting and engaging in business. I think business entrepreneurship is still on the rise. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think individuals are trying to find different ways, all right, to do things, all right, to engage financial challenges and choices and decisions that they have to make itself, whether to buy that car or not buy the car, buy the house, not buy the house. We're often, unfortunately, dictated by other industries and other economic conditions. So what do you see some of the challenges coming up forward? What's the pitfalls or some of the engaging challenges for entrepreneurs themselves they're going to be seeing in the future?
It is the roller coaster ride, right? Because you mentioned about stabilization. So the internet came, and then in 2001, 2002, we had the dot-com bust, but the internet didn't go away.
No, of course
it
not.
just kind of stabilized around that bust, right? And then we had Web 2.0 or the social technologies, and there was a rise in that, and then that stabilized it. I remember being very bored for a while. Like, you know, there's nothing exciting happening anymore. Right. And then, you know, I had been following AI for quite a while, probably the early 2000s that I started following what's going on in artificial intelligence within my Google alerts. So I saw things coming. I had talked about some things coming, but I thought it would be integrated into the tools we use, the cars, the appliances. It would be part of the Internet of Things, kind of added on. I did not see ChatGPT coming.
Right.
I always refer to it as ChatGPT landed on us.
It was a hovering experience.
Exactly. I did not get it. The day that ChatGPT was released to the public, I did not get any sleep for 2 days. I was just going in and seeing where all the capabilities were. And things are fun now. I'm no longer bored.
There are vast amounts of opportunity on it.
Vast amounts of opportunity.
But it's still in its infancy stage.
It is in its infancy stage, but if you look, this is different. This is not a tool. This is not a software. That's the pitfall. A lot of organizations are still going with the mindset of, oh, this is something that's going to help me improve efficiency or improve productivity. This is not a tool. This is an intelligence layer that's only getting smarter.
Right.
And so this is not like anything we've ever seen. And then right behind it is quantum. And quantum has made it to the point now Cisco's starting to release white papers on it.
Right.
You know, so you mentioned VR. You mentioned, you know, one of the first technologies that made me question what planet I was on was
soon the moon. Huh?
Yeah, apparently. But in 2006 is when I met a good friend of mine who was the one who turned me on to all the future technologies, and he was very involved with Second Life, the virtual worlds, and the currency in it, and all that's a prelude to like the Bitcoin and things like that we're into right now, right? So one of the things with the virtual worlds is as soon as the media started talking about it, then it became mainstream.
Sure.
Then we had political campaigns happening in Second Life. I ran a campaign for the Atlanta Convention Visitors Bureau, or Brand Atlanta, I think at the time, in Second Life. You know, Coca-Cola was in Second Life. And it didn't work out because the culture kind of pushed them away and people didn't really adopt it. But when you're seeing quantum computers in mainstream media now, that means they're getting much, much closer.
Sure.
And AI being an intelligence layer that's going to accelerate the next technologies coming to market, we are never going to see a plateau of change happening again. I think there's no stabilizing anymore.
The technology is moving at a greater speed.
Yes.
All right. How it's catching up, all right, to what it's doing right now against what things themselves used to be. All right, the speed and its generation itself is now really moving at hyperspeed.
Yes.
And I think those are the things themselves that even when you start taking a look at how people purchase goods, how people communicate, and how the information is getting out there. I think individuals bring products to market. Okay, if it wasn't for like a big A, okay, to really find a nucleus. And to driving products and services. I had worked for companies themselves years in the past. Themselves are always trying to do this, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you had this one company, all right, on a retail level, all right, banging the world.
Yep.
Okay,
You're speaking of Amazon?
Yeah, speak without a doubt. Without saying Amazon, we're speaking about Amazon. But what a unique opportunity for entrepreneurs. What is a unique opportunity for, and other platforms just like them.
Yes.
Okay. And I think they're going to continue to grow, and those platforms themselves are hopefully going to challenge and spearhead the entrepreneurial spirits going forward. And I think it's going to be true to form.
I think entrepreneurial spirit is really the only way you survive now. Even if you work in a company, you still need to be an entrepreneur.
Sure.
So one of the other early blog posts I wrote when I started writing about AI is productivity and efficiency is a commodity now. Everybody has access to these tools.
Sure. Yeah.
The only competitive advantage left, I wrote at that time, was creativity and innovation.
Yeah.
More recently, I said your differentiator is going to be the experience you bring to the customer.
Right.
It's your brand.
Service value.
Yeah. So staying with the Amazon thing without mentioning Amazon, I guess.
We're not going to say Amazon. Right, exactly.
One of my favorite definitions of brand is it's who people say you are when you're not in the room. That's right. And that's by Jeff Bezos. So that's the only thing you have left. Because everything you do can be copied now quickly.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Mass intelligence is available to everyone now.
Right, exactly.
It's more about how you think, decisions you make, your discernment, your creativity. I had a friend the other day ask, Sherry, how do you keep creativity going? How do you get people to be more creative?
Right.
And it's about having access to multiple disciplines and making those different connections, right? It's why I wish they would have never gotten rid of humanities or
imagine that, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I think we might need to bring some philosophy back. But your philosophy degree may actually be worth something now, exactly. And that's how you do it, but that means we got to redesign how organizations run. It's not about putting somebody on a task anymore. It's about helping people see the business, care about the business as a whole, knock down some silos, and getting people to rethink who they are and what they do and how they contribute.
Yeah, ownership, accountability, value, the proposition of. I often call my wife herself, she's a Googleologist. Okay, and because she'll search everything for Google or find out. I mean, it's an information source. People themselves are trying to find ways in order to upsell themselves or to create more value and more services.
Yeah.
And so that climbs us into a whole new gamut of entrepreneurial.
Yep.
Because it gives them the opportunity to build their own value.
Absolutely.
Even though some of the service themselves has taken a downhill slide.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that a little bit. So, Sherry, out here, what we do is we're going to be actually taking a look at your first. I think you've got a second compilation coming up. Okay, a 7 book.
This is actually my second book.
This is the second. So great, superb. And so this is the Learning to Love the Rollercoaster.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to just set this right up here for our viewers. All right. And if we can get that going in a easier manner, there we go. I think that'll work out. So good, superb. Stay there. Got it. What was the book about? What's the concept?
The concept is similar to what we've been talking about, that change isn't slowing down. And again, kind of leaning into the emotions of change and how do we move through that. Okay. So I start with a framework that I use whenever I'm working with an organization. And I didn't want it to be a business book, a dry business book.
Okay.
There's enough of those out there.
I think there's plenty. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted it to be stories, real stories of real people. So I started with one of my own.
Good.
And it was interesting as I was putting the book together, I realized that the framework I use for organizations was actually developed when I was 21 years old.
Right.
I just didn't know that it was a framework.
Good deal.
I'd not, formalized it yet.
All right.
And the framework, I'll tell you first, and then I'll give you the story, is PATH, P-A-T-H.
Okay. Acronyms. I love them. Go ahead.
Absolutely. One of the things I've always worked through any situation with is start with what's working, start with what's good. And that's the P, present.
Okay.
What is working? So many transformations start with what's needed to change, and then everybody gets anxious. Oh my gosh, the ground's moving underneath me. Start with what's not changing to get people grounded.
Okay.
A is assess. That's when you go in and say, okay, what does need to change? And let's prioritize that. Okay. Let's not do everything at once.
All right.
T is working through the emotions and the processes and the tools and the technologies and whatever is needed for that transformation. And then H is the most important one, which is what do you expect to come out of that transformation?
Exactly.
H is for harness.
Good.
What are you harnessing from this transformation?
Good. I like
and
that.
that keeps people from chasing all the shiny new toys that's out there. And so the story I start with is I'm 21 years old. I'm engaged, living with my fiance, who's a musician, and he is gigging 5-6 nights a week. And we are loving life and, out late at night, and that pregnancy test came back positive.
Okay, that's where it starts right there. Okay.
And I tell people, that we had not finished college. We were young. And we had to sit down and say, what are we going to do? And so the P was what's already working. We were already engaged. We knew we were for each other.
Good.
We knew pretty much what we wanted to do as far as our careers. We just had been putting it aside for a moment.
Sure,
We're having some fun.
Put it on the back shelf a little bit.
Exactly.
Right.
We knew we had a family that was going to support us. So we knew all the things that were working. And then the A was the assess, so what needs to change. And what needed to change is we had to find a college that could support us.
Right.
Florida State University had a great housing situation for families, and with a daycare that was run by the students.
Look at that.
Yeah, it was an amazing daycare, so that worked. So that was the A. The transition was getting through the college, and the H was we both have had successful careers. I've been married. It's going to be 32 years in a couple weeks.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sounds like you're a product of your own story.
Exactly. So it's stories like that. I have not just my own stories, my husband's stories, but also stories of a chief people officer who went through both a lot of personal changes as well as organizational changes, a very inspirational person who was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in his 30s, who was in a wheelchair and now walks. So amazing inspirational story about mindset from him. And then another great guy who has had to spend a lot of his career making very difficult choices that affected other people's lives, including his own.
Right.
So great stories in there, great frameworks in there. And then I also talk a lot about how do you have self-agency when we're going to have all this AI, quantum. And I also talk about CRISPR, the healthcare technologies that's happening within the book, and that these are all going to affect us as on a business level
right.
and a personal level. And how do we get some self-agency back for that?
Sure. You mentioned a couple things, mindset. It's You won't get through a podcast or any one of my trainings or teachings unless I talk about those 4 areas of content, story, humor, and entertainment. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like within those stories, and our mantra here is we bring stories to life.
Yeah.
And I think story binds a lot of potential for individuals to put in place their own mindset. Motivation is based on a mindset, and how they're going to be able to change some of that mindset to really engage. Already, sometimes we have to hear story, already, and or listen to content themselves, but through story and entertainment.
Yes.
We pick up, we learn so
Yes.
much, and we're guided by that because we want to know that we're not the only one that is going through this.
Exactly.
Okay? And I think what FSU did in that particular time was a springboard to what you are currently doing right now, or what you're doing in the book. And I think folks themselves, they can relate to these stories. I think it's extremely important. Now, you have another book that's coming out too
Yes.
as well. All right. And what's that about? Because I mean, they're going to segue without a doubt.
They are.
All right. And it sounds like you write a lot about the story and your life and things themselves that you were able to accomplish already,
Yes.
and rectify and correct already, to build your own transformation.
And what I didn't want to have this book be was all about me, which is why I interviewed other people to be in the book.
Not a biography.
Exactly. It shows where I come from, but it also is reinforced by other people's stories.
Right.
The next book's definitely going to be a lot more interviews with leaders, and it's going to be more business focused.
Good.
Where this one is like anybody could pick it up and get something from it. The next one is more business focused because, as I mentioned, I think we need entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs.
Sure.
So the next one right now, the working title is Engaged by Design.
Good.
And it's how do you redesign your organizations? How do you lead so that people are not coming in and clocking in and then leaving, or they're not working out of a sense of fear that I need a paycheck.
Right.
The three mindsets I mentioned in this book are poverty mindset,
Okay.
survival mindset, and creator mindset. And I think most people are functioning from poverty or survival. Poverty is, if I don't do my job, I'll get fired. There's not enough jobs out there. There's not enough opportunity.
Yeah.
Or it's kind of that victim mindset as well. The survival, I think, is where a lot of people live, which is the hustle mindset, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to put in all these hours and I'm going to go for the promotion and I'm going to follow this track or I'm going to carry all this weight. But they're not yet in that creator mindset, which is when you kind of step back and you say, what am I working with here? What's going on? What's good? What can I create from this? And it comes from a much calmer area.
Sure.
And we need to design our organizations where there's that psychological safety that people can come with that creator mindset so that we could have that creativity and innovation that's going to differentiate a company and have them keep growing, that they need to be doing during this very competitive disruption that's happening.
It's definitely a competitive disruption. I believe in the mantra itself that I've always lived with is if you love what you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, which is a pretty cool concept. We built that world. You're building that world. You have built that world from ground scratch zero. Already. And I think folks themselves to see that transformational particular position in their lives is extremely important. Work doesn't have to be stress.
No.
All right. Work doesn't have to be somewhere you go in, day out.
No.
But there's going to take some additional actions. All right. Some responsibility, some accountability, and to work with the individual's opportunities and environment, which you want to create. And I think those things are going to be extremely important going forward, especially for the newer generations coming in. All right. What is they want to see? Okay. And you'll see right now, you look at census, you look at different types of reports that are coming out and things. There was a void, okay, in the learning aspect of the generation, everything else like this. And you're nodding because you know exactly where that void is. And I think that void itself is going to create a little problem, okay? But I think out of necessity, or out of drive, out of motivation, maybe inspiration through experiences and those themselves to say, I don't want to do what my parents have done, okay, will now hopefully bridge us to a different type of awareness.
Yeah.
And I think the awareness is going to be something key, hopefully going forward, especially for entrepreneurs and business leaders.
Yes.
All right, especially the leadership, the roles themselves coming in. It's not to the fact itself that you did the job and you did it so well that they promoted you.
Right.
All right, but you did the job, you did it well, but you understand what leadership is all about.
Yes.
And I think that's going to be the key going forward.
You have hit so many different points there. one of the things I saw happening from that 2005 Web 2.0 moving on was that things were moving so fast, companies did not know what to train people on anymore. And we saw training programs just really fade away and became self-learning. So everybody has access to LinkedIn Learning. Go figure out what you need to learn.
Right.
And then come tell me
Sure, right, exactly.
what you learned, right? Because it used to be mandated top down. Now it's like, we don't know, figure it out. And if you don't figure it out, I'm going to lay you off and go hire somebody who did figure
That's
it
right.
out, you know?
Yeah.
And so I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of people lose their job, but the position didn't go away. They just got replaced with somebody who was more self-educated.
That's right, yeah.
You know, so that
Well, I had that drive to do it.
exactly.
You know, so.
And then the leadership piece, I have my own podcast on Amplified Concepts, very little one, and I just interviewed Tino, who has been working. Mantella, he was with TAG for quite a long time.
All right.
Italian name, I can't, too many syllables.
We'll clap it out.
Exactly. Sorry, Tino. But he was just saying how there's no leadership training anymore. And that's exactly right. And I just had another conversation with somebody, and she was like, yeah, if you're a great salesperson, they make you a sales manager.
That's a problem.
That's two different skill sets.
Sure it is. Yeah.
You know? And there is no leadership training that's happening anymore that I see anywhere. And this is going to take leadership. It's going to take
Sure it is.
strong, empathetic leadership that knows how to let go, that's not top-down controlling, but that can listen from the ground up and wants to get those insights and nurture the right insights. So it's going to take discernment of which are the right insights. How do you pair people up for that mentorship that you mentioned?
Right, exactly, yeah.
And when do you change mentors? Because I know for me, I've not had one mentor. I usually have 3 or 4 or 5.
You have to.
And they don't even know that they're my mentor.
That's okay, too, as well. You pay them less, so that's all right. Good.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, what do I need to learn and who can I learn it from?
Right.
You know? And that's where we need to be. But we also need to kind of going, again, from the top down versus bottom up, when you mentioned the kids, the next generation, we need to stop telling them what careers they need to go into because we don't know.
That's right.
And we need to stop telling them they need to have a career by 25.
Yeah.
Because whatever they start with is going to change.
It's old world thinking, you know.
Let them figure out who they are and what they want to contribute. And then from there, figure out what the ingredients are happening in the world for them to be able to contribute.
Sure. And if they're still on your couch at age 30, all right, there's always the back door.
Yeah, my son still lives with me.
That's all right.
But
it's
he's
all
a
good.
kid. He's pursuing comedy and is working at Helium and is on stage
He's
and doing his
what he
thing.
wants to do.
He's
you know?
doing his
So
thing and making strides.
That's good. Continue out there. Sherry, this has been a great little segment. I thank you very much for coming in. All right. And folks, how are they going to reach you?
So I'm very fortunate that I have a unique name. There's nobody that I found on the internet with my name.
Good deal. Superb. Not like me, like Hart. All right.
Exactly. So Sherry, as like the wine, Sherry, Heyl, Heyl. And that's going to be my username for all the social media because of the uniqueness of it. I'm very active on Substack and I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Good.
I have a presence everywhere else. My company's Amplified Concepts.
Mm-hmm.
My YouTube channel is Amplified Concepts.
Good.
Not my name, but my company name. And that's amplifiedconcepts.com.
Good deal. Sherry, it's been my honor. Distinct pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Talking about leadership and those themselves are creativity, transformation, and being very, very creative as today's leaders.
Yes.
Right? We look forward to seeing you. We look forward to seeing you back in another segment. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's Rich Hart Show. Sherry, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
God bless, folks. We'll see you on the flip side. Have a great day.